Ralph McQuarrie was an American conceptual designer and illustrator. He is best known for his work as the original concept artist for the Star Wars franchise. In addition to his work on Star Wars, McQuarrie worked on a variety of other films and television projects, including Battlestar Galactica, E.T., and Cocoon. Ralph McQuarrie was born on June 13, 1929 in Gary, Indiana. He grew up in Billings, Montana, where he developed an early interest in art. After high school, he served in the United States Army during the Korean War. After his military service, McQuarrie attended the Art Center School in Los Angeles, where he studied industrial design. He then worked for a dentistry firm illustrating teeth and equipment. Then he worked for Boeing as a freelance artist as well as designing film posters and animating CBS News coverage of the Apollo space program. He later moved to Hollywood and began working in the film industry. While there, McQuarrie was asked by Hal Barwood to produce some illustrations for a film project he and Matthew Robbins were starting. A young George Lucas was impressed with McQuarrie's work, so the filmmaker arranged a meeting with the illustrator to talk about a film project, an epic story set in space. Lucas showed him some reference photos and illustrations to convey his vision to McQuarrie, and even showed him some science fiction artwork by John Berkey, which the director himself had purchased. Ralph McQuarrie's work on Star Wars began in 1975 to create conceptual art for the first film in the franchise, like the characters, landscapes, and asked him to create visual designs for the various elements of the film. He began by creating conceptual art for the characters, including Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Princess Leia, Han Solo, Chewbacca, and the droids R2-D2 and C-3PO. He then worked on the designs for the various vehicles and spacecraft in the film, including the Millennium Falcon, the X-Wing, TIE fighters, and Y-wing fighters. McQuarrie's concept paintings were instrumental in helping Lucas to win approval for 20th Century Fox. His production painting of R2-D2 and C-3PO wandering the desert planet Tatooine was the first to be completed. His initial concept of C-3PO was visibly inspired by the Art Deco robot from Fritz Lang's film Metropolis. The painting had a special impact on actor Anthony Daniels, who was about to turn down the role of C-3PO.
He had painted a face and a figure that had a very melancholy, rather wistful, rather stripped-down quality to it, which I found very appealing.
The appeal of McQuarrie's image convinced him to accept the role. McQuarrie said Lucas' artistic direction on Darth Vader was to depict a malevolent figure in a samurai cape and armor.
For Darth Vader, George just said he would like to have a very tall, dark fluttering figure that had a spooky feeling like it came in on the wind.
He also created concept art for the various locations in the film, including Tatooine. Inside the Mos Eisley Cantina, the Death Star, and the Rebel base on the planet Yavin. His design helped to define the look and feel of the Star Wars universe, and many of his concepts were used directly in the final film. During filming, Lucas ensured that many shots reproduced McQuarrie's painting exactly. Such was his esteem for this artist's work. Ralph McQuarrie has said of his work on Star Wars,
"I thought I had the best job that an artist ever had on a film, and I had never worked on a feature film before. I still get fan mail, people wondering if I worked on episode 1 or just wanting to have my autograph."
While developing all this work, he was contacted by Ballantine Books to create the illustration for the novelization of Star Wars. This would be one of the many works he would do for this publisher. Throughout his work on the Star Wars franchise, McQuarrie continued to develop his design, creating new concepts for each film in the original trilogy. He also contributed to the design of the prequel trilogy. His work on the franchise earned him numerous awards and accolades, and his design continued to be influential in the Star Wars universe to this day. Shortly after finishing his work on Star Wars, another franchise with a huge fan base required his services. His work on Star Trek, the motion picture released in 1979, was instrumental in shaping the look of the film. McQuarrie was hired as a conceptual artist to help develop the visual style of the movie, which was the first feature film based on the popular Star Trek television series. McQuarrie's contribution to the film include designs for the exterior and interior of the USS Enterprise, the iconic starship that served as the centerpiece of the Star Trek franchise. He also created concept art for other spacecraft. In addition to his work on Star Wars and Star Trek, Ralph worked on a variety of other films and television productions throughout his career. Some of his notable contributions include Battlestar Galactica, where he worked as a conceptual artist on the original 1978 television series, creating designs for the show's spacecraft and locations. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, he designed the alien ships. E.T. the Extraterrestrial, creating concept art for Steven Spielberg, including designs for the titular character and the spaceship. Riders of the Lost Ark. Cocoon created designs of the alien Antarians and their technology. This work earned him the Academy Award for Visual Effects. Ralph McQuarrie passed away on March 3, 2012 at the age of 82 in Berkeley, California. According to his family, he had been in poor health for some time before his death. He had suffered a stroke in 2010, which had limited his ability to create new artwork. Despite his declining health, McQuarrie continued to work on new projects up until his death. In the years leading up to his passing, he contributed artwork to a number of Star Wars-related projects. His passing was mourned by fans and colleagues in the film and science fiction communities who praised his contribution to the art conceptual design. His legacy continues to be celebrated today, and his artwork remains an important part of the Star Wars universe and science fiction as a whole.